All right, welcome back to another weekly edition of Happy Hour with the Lincoln. We're now on episode number 64. And let me do the official cheers to all my good trading friends. Let me do a cheers to all my friends out there. And how about all of us? All of you watching, let's do a special cheers to all of those in the path of this hurricane on the East Coast. My best wishes to you and your family, and please be safe. Now, this is where week by week I'll do my best to answer all of your stock market related questions, and I'll share with you my 2-decade-long journey as a professional stock trader, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the attempts to shorten your learning curve and get you to the level that you want to be. Now, I say it every week. It doesn't matter what level you are on right now, whether you're a new trader trying to build the right kind of foundation, you're an experienced trader, but you're just not good enough yet to make a professional, consistent living at it. Or maybe you are a professional trader and you're making a living, but you want to go to that next number in your mind, that next tax bracket, that next level. Right here's the link to our live trade room. Click on it. It'll take you right there and you can start trading with us live. If not, it's down in the description box as well. Now, enough of that, because my friends, let me tell you this. This is going to be the most awesomest, ludicrous, gargantuanly epic happy hour I have ever done. I know I say that all the time, but it is. And you know why? Let me tell you why. Because this guy, this guy right here, I turned the big 50. That might be backwards on your screen. 50 freaking years old. That's right. I know I look 80, but I turned 50. And I'll tell you what, it sounds really weird to say that. And I think the reason is because most of us, when we're younger, we don't think of ourselves getting older. It's not something we always think about, which we should, because if you look around, the world is just full of old people. Everywhere you go, there's just old people. And they're not Benjamin Buttons, and they were born at 90 and they're going back the other way. They were once very young, sexy, handsome, and vibrant as we were. And then, age takes over, as it will all of us. So it's kind of weird. You just kind of feel that when you're younger, you're never going to make it. When you're 20 years old, you're like, I won't live that long. And then you do. Most of us, we do live that long. And I think also is we kind of benchmark our lives to the 100 lifespan scale, which is not the average life expectancy for a person. But you always think, maybe if I live, I won't live to 100. 100 would be nice. And it's like, geez, I'm halfway there. So it's just weird. It's weird saying that you're 50. But you know what? Don't matter, because I'm here. I'm still going. I'm still trading. I'm still doing happy hour. I'm still kicking, man. And I'm going to keep on going as long as I possibly can. Now, here's what I want to talk about for this happy hour, because first, let me say thank you, because I got a lot of great wishes from you guys, a lot of nice things, a lot of gifts. You guys sent me freaking gifts. I can't believe it. You didn't have to do that, but that's really nice of you. But anyway, I got a lot of emails this week about what was the biggest lesson I learned over 50 years business-wise. Like if I could go back to my 15-year-old self, that young Doug running around high school with his mullet, the bright pink Police. Remember the band Police? Do, 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 a da, da, da. God, you guys probably don't. Wearing the white pants. What would myself say to that guy? Like if I can go back in the DeLorean time machine, what would be the one piece of advice? Now, I kind of covered this before in happy hours and whiteboards, that life is so long, and your journey and all the things you do are so long, and you learn so many lessons, good and bad, that it's always hard for you to go back and pinpoint one. Like, this is the one thing I would say. This is the one lesson. Like I told in a happy hour a few weeks ago about my trading experiences, what was the one lesson? It's like, it's too many of them. But I got to think about, like, let's say hypothetically, there was one thing I could say. And I did think of something. And that is something I want to share with you, which might not be the most important, but I think it's really important for everyone that's listening. And that is, it is never a bad idea to learn something. It's never a bad idea to learn something. Even if you're learning something now and it isn't working out for you, that doesn't mean that you're making a mistake or it's a bad idea. You see, we live in a society where instant gratification is placed upon our shoulders, or we expect that kind of greatness of ourselves, and we expect things to happen good for us and happen quickly, and we want everything yesterday. We want it all right here at our fingertips. And it just doesn't work that way, And no matter what part of your life you're on and you're learning something, you're doing something, if you're not getting instant results at it, you feel as if you're wasting your time. And I'm here to tell you that learning, it doesn't matter if you're learning how to play checkers, doing trivia, even small stuff, learning anything is never a bad idea, because what it does is you're building certain habits and behaviors and learning things that may not pay dividends for you now, but something that may really come in handy for you later. Now, let me give you a great example of this. I didn't know this at the time, but now that I'm an old 50-year-old feller, I can share this stuff with you. When I was young, I'm talking 11 years old, my dad told my brother and I, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go out there and you're going to work. I'm going to teach you kids how to take care of yourself. I'm going to teach you kids how to work. And that's what he did. No slacking in our house. So he made us get a paper route. I got one when I was 11. My brother got one a few years later when he was 10. So here I am. This is an 11-year-old kid, right? And this is back, and I want to tell you, all you millennials, you're probably not going to believe this, but people used to read newspapers. There was actual newspapers, like the Washington Post. It used to be like actually not online. You get a piece of paper and you read it. It's a joke, right? It was. But this was so old school. This is late 70s, early 80s. And back then in the town that I lived in, they had paper boys and paper girls. Like I was a paper boy. You delivered the papers to the people's house. So I got a job as a paper boy at 11 years old. And they would come every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and drop off 200 newspapers. I would get up at 5. I would put those 200 newspapers into a satchel, and I would walk around the neighborhood putting those in a mailbox every day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, hail, sleet, snow, sun, rain, no matter what the weather. And if I went on a vacation, I had to have somebody to cover my paper route for me. It was an everyday job. So I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, deliver 200 newspapers, then go to school. And I did this all the way through from 11 years old until I graduated from high school at 18. Now, I hated my dad for this. I cussed, screamed, and cried. I hate this paper route. I want to quit this paper route. He wouldn't let my brother and I quit. We either had to find another job, right? Or we had to move out of the house before we could quit the paper route. And the economy was so bad back then, I couldn't get another job. So I actually had that until I graduated from high school and left the house. Again, this really sucked when I was like 16 years old, and I'm driving a car. 17, I'm going out on dates. And then you're out at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, having a good time with your friends and the ladies. And then you're like, oh, shit, I got to go deliver papers in a couple hours. And you just roll up and deliver papers. Now, I hated it. And then after that, I went on to get a couple of odd jobs, after I get out of high school. I'll kind of jump ahead. And I took any kind of odd job I could get. I did construction work. I did roofing. I was an electrician with a union in Virginia. I did a lot of tending for a car. I worked on vehicles. I did whatever, landscaping. I did all kinds of odd jobs. And they were $3.50 an hour, and they sucked, and it was hot. And they were just crappy jobs with no future. And I always felt like I was wasting my time. Well, I mentioned a couple weeks in the happy hour. I think it was last happy hour, maybe the week before, that the insurance job that I got in my early 20s was the first real good paying job. And one of the reasons why I was good at it, I didn't realize it back then, but the purpose of that job was they gave you leads, and you went to people's houses, you drove to their homes, you knocked on their door, you developed a rapport with them, you sat on their couch, you got to know them, and you helped them with their insurance needs. That's how that business worked. It was a person-to-person business, not like the internet today. It was a handshake, one-on-one kind of business. Well, I didn't realize until I got older that the reason I was so good at that was not because I had insurance knowledge and I knew a lot about insurance. It was because of my work ethic I got from the paper route when I was 11 years old. Getting up early. I always get up early. I'm up every day at 5, even if it's on a Saturday or Sunday. Meeting people. Now, one thing I failed to mention is that when I had the paper route, they didn't pay their money via online. There was no online. They didn't even mail checks in. You had to go to the person's house at the end of the month and collect the money from them. So I had to go back out and knock on all 200 of those doors, collect the money, then take the money down to the newspaper office at the end of the month and settle the bill with them. That's how that job worked. That's how it was done back then. It was crazy to think that, but that's how it was done. But that type of behavior that my dad made my brother and I have, that paper route taught me work ethic, how to go through extreme conditions, delivering papers in the rain, the hail, the sleet, the snow, building a rapport, getting to know these people. And over the 6-7 years that I did that, I got to know these people. I met people. Some of them died. I went to their funerals. I met their family members. You know, I mean, I've developed these relationships with these people, and I collected money from them. And those were the type of things that came into play for me later on when I was in the insurance business, because I had a rapport with people going one-on-one. Now, again, back then, in the 70s, I thought it was a waste of time. It was a stupid job. All my friends were sleeping in until, you know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon in summers. They were just laying around, being lazy. And here I am, being responsible. But if we look back now, it's like, well, look where I'm at now in my life, and then look where you are. Now, after that, like I said, I did all kinds of odd jobs, construction work and stuff. And then when I started doing really well in the insurance business, there were other things I wanted to learn how to do. One of those were, I was very afraid to fly. I hate flying an aircraft. And I thought it would be a good idea that if I learned how to fly an airplane and understood how aviation worked, I would feel more comfortable in a plane. So I paid my own money. I signed up and I and I got a pilot's license, which I still have today, even though I hardly ever fly, only when it's absolutely necessary. But I can fly a single engine aircraft. That's never came in handy yet. But I know how to do it. And it helped me get over, you know, my fear of flying just commercially or just being in an airplane. Back then too, when I was living in Florida at the time, this article came out in the newspaper about this surge in the Latino population. And because I was doing door-to-door sales and customer interaction, I felt, you know what? There's such a large percentage of, you know, Latinos and Spanish-speaking community in Florida. In the future, I'm going to need to know how to speak Spanish, because it will open up the doors to a whole set of business, a business that we don't have. So I signed up for college courses in the evening, and I took Spanish and learned how to speak Spanish on a level where I could communicate with people. And I did this stuff all throughout. Now, as time went on, you know, and I purchased a home, things would break in your home. You'd need drywall, concrete, electrical work, right? Your pipe would break. You'd have to remodel something. And for me, it became easy to do that on my own because early on, when I was 19 or 20, I worked for an electrical company. I did electrical work. I laid concrete. I put up drywall. I learned these things. And then, you know, now being in Southern California, where there's an enormous amount of Spanish speakers, it helps me communicate with different kind of people. It helps me when I go to places like Mexico or Spain or whatever. It comes in handy. Brings me to today with my business. You know, one of the things I've always been upfront was my struggles as a trader. And I had that early period there in the first 4 or 5 years where it was really, really bad for me. And I didn't know if I wanted to do it. But there was those lessons that I had learned along the way that, you know, maybe trading wasn't going to work for me. There was a time I thought, well, maybe day trading or trading professionally for an income isn't going to be something that happens. However, the stuff that I studied, the lessons that I learned from losing money through the dot-coms and all that. Worst case scenario, I learned how the market worked. You know, I never thought about that at the time, but like 2005, I started thinking, you know, I at least learned how the market worked. I understand how stocks work. I understand how to invest money. So in the bear case, if it never works out for me as a trader, which unfortunately it did, thank goodness it did, then I would still be able to manage my own money. So if I went off and I developed an invention or I created something and I had a lot of money in my 401k, I could manage my own money. I don't need to go out and get a fund manager or a financial advisor or, you know, take cheap returns from a bank. I know how to manage my own money. And again, we talked about that last week. There's a difference between, you know, managing your own money and making money in the stock market, which I think is relatively easy, versus making bank and doing it for a living, which is extremely hard. But that, again, that's a different topic. So what I'm trying to say here is throughout your life, you're learning things. And some of the things that you learn, you're going to apply right away. And they're going to pay dividends right away. But for some of you, you're banging your head. You feel like you're banging your head against the wall. You're learning to do something. Maybe you're learning to fly. Maybe you're trying to trade stocks. You're learning real estate. And it's not working for you. You're having a hard time learning and you're having a hard time prospering in that business. I want you to understand that that knowledge is not a waste of your time. It is not a waste of your time, because maybe it doesn't work for you then, but later on in your life, it will come in handy. You just never know. And that's one thing I can say is being 50, life is freaking long, man. You think it's short? No, no, no. It's long. You have all this time to make a first, second, and third act and reinvent yourself and come back at it. Again, I talked about that so many times with my business is I bombed out after '01. You know, 2, 3, and 4 hideous years, terrible, losing money. I was out of trading. I was done, never to return. I came back in late '03 and '04 and tried it again, took the lessons that I learned from losing money and gradually started to build myself up. And then here I am today, you know, living off of my trading. So yes, I paid a price back then. Yes, it was bad, but I learned something that's paying dividends for me today. That's what I'm saying to you guys right now. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing, how hard your struggles are, or if you feel like you're just like a hamster on your wheel spinning. That's my piece of advice. It is never, ever a bad idea to learn something, because whatever that thing is that you're learning may come in handy. 5 years down the road, it may change the way you live your life. It may change your world. It may change everything that you know. You just never know what's going to happen. So anyway, that's it. Cheers. 50 years of cheers. Thank you. Until next time, take care.